Hi boys and girls, today we are doing commas and addresses again! Let's review. There are two different ways to write an address. Both have different rules for where you put your commas. You can either write an address in a sentence, or you can write an address on an envelope. And this chart explains the differences. In a sentence, you put a comma between each part of the address. The person who you are writing to, called the addressee, the street, the city, the state and country, and the zip code. So, for example, Hembry Springs is located at 815 Hembry Road, Roswell, Georgia, 30076. However, on an envelope, each part of the address gets a new line, and the comma goes between the city and the state, or the country. So, if I were writing a letter to Hembry Springs, I would put Hembry Springs. The next line would go 815 Hembry Road. The third line has Roswell, Georgia, 30076. And you can see there's one comma in there after Roswell, which is between the city and the state. Let's look at this question. I want to write this sentence on an envelope, but first, I need to know, where do the commas go in this sentence? The President of the United States lives at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, Washington, D.C., 90502. This one's a little trickier because Washington, D.C. is technically not a state. However, you treat the letters DC as if it were abbreviating a state. It's abbreviating the District of Columbia, but that's another lesson for another time. But where should I put the commas? I need a comma after the street, 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, and after the city, Washington, and after DC, between the DC and the zip code. If this were a state instead of DC, it would be the same thing. So I'm going to put a comma after Pennsylvania Avenue, I'm going to put a comma after Washington, and put a comma after DC. So the President of the United States lives at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, Washington, DC, 90502. Now, where would the commas go on the envelope? So here's my envelope, and I'm going to write a letter to the President of the United States. Well, in my first line, I have to put the person I'm delivering the envelope to, and that would be the President of the United States. Then I put the house number and the address, 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. Then on my third line, I put the city, the state, or in this case, DC, and the zip code, Washington, D.C. 90502. I need to know, where does the comma go? The comma only goes after Washington. It does not go after D.C. That is what's tricky about writing letters with a zip code. There is no comma after the state before the zip code. Some places, like if you write to another country, they don't have a zip code, so you don't need to worry about that. But in the United States, we have so many people in so many states and so many cities that they need zip codes to help deliver the mail. You can see I've put extra space between the state and the zip code. That just helps when you write the letter, helps the mailman see it better. You don't have to do that. One space is fine, but there is no comma in between that. If I'm going to do an enveloped sentence, let's see, looks like I already have the comma on there for you. Let's see what goes around it. Go Noodle. If we were writing a letter to Go Noodle at 209 10th Avenue South, Nashville, Tennessee, 37203, I would only put the comma between the city and the state. So the city's Nashville, the state is Tennessee. So where does the comma go? In between Nashville and Tennessee. If I were to put this in a letter, I would need to put a comma between each piece of the letter. So let's write to Go Noodle at 209 10th Avenue South, comma, Nashville, comma, Tennessee, comma, 37203 to tell them how much we like their videos. So you can see I've put a comma in between each piece, but when I read the sentence out loud, I don't need to say the word comma. It just tells me as a reader to pause. But it needs to go between each piece of the envelope. Now you can see that the tricky part is you do not have to put a comma after Go Noodle, because after Go Noodle, it doesn't make sense in the sentence because I'm not listing it as a series. Go Noodle is just, it's another part of the sentence. So you, as a smart third grader, need to know when the person we're writing the letter to is a part of the sentence or if it's a part of the series. And you will run into that on your homework tonight. So on the practice questions, you have some different multiple choice options. Read them carefully and choose the best answer. Before you start your homework, I have a joke for you. What kind of music do the Pilgrims listen to? Plymouth Rock. Ha ha ha. Have a great night.